What's on Your Minda contains honest, intimate, and uncensored depictions of mental health issues and experiences. Content and trigger warnings can be found in the description for each episode.
Welcome back to another episode of What's on,
on
Your
Your
Minda.
Minda.
I'm Amanda,
And I'm Diana.
and we're both clinical psychologists at Minda Psychology Services.
Yes.
To start us off, I thought we should talk about a fun thing, which is what our comfort foods are. Yeah, what is yours?
One of my comfort foods is chicken rice. Actually, Hainanese chicken rice.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, not the Malay type. I guess only Hainanese. Has to be steamed. Has to be, really good brothy type of
I like
chicken
that.
rice.
Yeah.
What about you, Minda?
Mine is more like a snack. I love mint chocolate.
Oh,
Yeah. So what was that reaction?
I hate mint chocolate. I think it's like very specific. Some people like it, or some people don't like it. That's it.
You know, if it's chocolate mixed with toothpaste, I love it.
Exactly the description.
Yeah, right.
Have you actually tried mixing chocolate and
No, but I assume that's how it tastes like.
Yeah,
Don't you think so?
I would think so.
But it's like delicious to me.
What do you like about it? It's
I think because it's chocolate, which to me regularly will feel like heaty.
okay.
It's like too rich, right? But when you
Okay.
take like something that's fresh,
ah,
like sharp taste like that in it, it doesn't feel as bad, and it feels very like, refreshing for me.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. A whole palette description I never thought about. But yes,
Happy New Year! We're back for another episode in the new year 2025. And
Yes.
I think fitting, it seems like we're going to talk about New Year and resolutions today.
yeah, and setting some goals on like New Year's, and that's the common theme, right?
Yes.
Like, why? Have you ever thought about like why is it something about New Year's or January or like a new year makes people feel motivated to start a new resolution?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that? What's your thoughts on it?
I don't know, man. I feel like it almost feels like a fresh start. Right?
Okay.
Like, I think maybe because we're used to our school year starting in January.
True.
Like at the end of the year, we always are like wrapping things up. It's the big holiday at the end. Because, in Malaysia, we don't have like summer holidays.
we don't.
It's not really
It's
a
like
thing.
year-end holidays.
Year-end holidays is
Yeah.
where it's at, right? So the school year ends, we get to rest, and then we're sort of coming back to restart
Yeah.
the next year. And I feel
Understand.
like that's where, for me personally, that's where it started. Like that's why I'm used to New Year being a fresh start. Like
Understand.
everything gets renewed.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, I think there's something about the whole community, or like shops selling like calendars and like
Yes.
journals. It's like it feels new. It feels, and then a lot of times it's like a fresh start, a clean slate, which
Yeah,
can be very. I feel like it can be very motivating. It has some
so.
psychological effect
Yeah.
to drive a sense of motivation, and
Yeah.
it's
It's almost as if it doesn't matter what happened last year.
we should, but I guess not. I don't
We'll
know.
talk about that. We'll talk about that. But it's almost as if like, hey, here's a chance for you to just like start again
Yeah.
or start something new.
Yeah. And I think it's, I don't know, but the thing I noticed lately is there's kind of, I guess, some kind of negativity or shaming when it comes to people who get excited about the new year, or like starting new resolutions. Like,
I've
oh,
seen
what's the
that.
point of you actually wanting to start something new because you're not going to follow through anyways? I'm like, boo.
First of all, boo.
Boo.
That's
Why so-
rude.
Yeah, rude and mean. And why are you damping out on people's happiness? Or even if they're starting something new, even if it doesn't follow through, at least there is that sense of excitement, and life should be about some excitement.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like it shows that willingness to change. Maybe they just haven't followed through. There's
Yeah.
something there, but in terms of wanting to start, wanting to try, I think that's such a good thing. It's such a pure
Intention.
thing, intention to have resolutions because it's a new year.
Agreed. Speaking of like things not following through, but okay, before we get to that, I kind of want to know, like, what's your, I guess, vibe when you go into the whole 2025? What's 2025 for like Amanda?
Let me think. I feel like I want it to be a year that there's a lot of focus on life, and that means more like things I've never tried before, like going on new like adventures or experiences. I want to be able to do that because I think a lot of times I sort of just like, okay, this is a year for success. Let's work hard. Let's achieve success, which, very arbitrary, right? But this year I feel like I just want to be happy. I want to do things that make me feel good and make me feel happy.
That's
So I feel like that's a good place to start. That's my vibe. What about you?
nice. I'm happy for you. I hope 2025 will be a great year for you. That you experience things.
How snapping is this?
I don't know. Some tiny snappings. 2025 for me, I was telling you earlier, it's gonna be about me allowing myself to be myself. Yes, it's mainly, just being less uptight with myself. I'm a really uptight person to myself, by the way. So just trying to let my hair down more.
Yeah.
Just trying to be a bit more free, not emotionally shame myself for, judging myself so much. Just want to embrace myself and hopefully let 2025 be the year that I allow myself to be more authentic and genuine to people around me, and especially to myself. And I think that's aligned with the values that I want and the goals that I want, because I've been in this soul searching journey of like, who am I really? Am I just a depiction of what people tell me? Is it even accurate? Do I even know myself?
Who am I?
Yeah. So, part of
Yeah.
that is that.
Awesome. I'm happy
Thanks.
for you. I want to see. I feel like I do see a lot of your true self already, but I want to
Yeah.
see you embrace it and show more people
Yeah.
that true self.
Yeah. But speaking of which, not related to true self. More related to
Speaking of which, but not
related to
related.
true self. More back to like, I guess, resolutions and
Yes.
like goals, right? How's it, with every year, especially being in the field, being in this position, or like having this knowledge, right? I think you have a lot of extensive knowledge on like goal setting and stuff.
Yeah.
What is your personal experience like with goal setting? Do you find like what works for you, what doesn't? Other things that you see out there actually accurate and actually useful. Like one famous one, like for example, SMART goals.
Yeah.
Like, do you find that does it work for you?
To be very honest, we'll get into like how it would probably look like for other people, but
Yeah.
for me personally, because I also have ADHD, I don't think too deeply about goals.
Okay.
Like, I think a part of ADHD is that I'm not very future oriented. It's always happening in the now,
Right.
So if I have a goal, it's usually an impulsive goal.
Right.
But I have tried to manage it by purposefully sitting down and thinking about goals and what I want to achieve for the next year, which is hard. And we've talked about, business stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to look past like next month. Okay, right? So for me personally, I feel like SMART goals do have its use, and it's very helpful. But when I look at goals and when I sit down and write about goals, I never think about SMART goals. It's almost as if that structure is not something that comes naturally to me or even works for me, I feel.
Okay.
It's
That's
almost as if-
insightful.
yeah, it's a very different feeling where I know why it works. It's specific, it's measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound.
Right.
Time bound, you want to tell me about time bound? And I set that time for myself, it's never happening.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, like that's why I'm like, it doesn't really work for me. But I know it works for a lot of people. Like, what about you? Have you done that before? How does it go for you?
I have actually, and I find your sharing very insightful because it's a different perspective. Because sometimes you might think like, it's something that's pretty straightforward. Probably it's so basic and so intuitive that it just works, but clearly it's not as intuitive, right? But yeah, for me, I feel like my the only time no the most monumental moment for me how goal setting was, or like resolution, New Year's resolution was actually effective, was when I did my thesis.
Okay.
Sorry, no, my assignment for my master's
Yeah.
on behavior modification, on actually changing my behavior. And that was one of the first times that I was able to understand the theory and see it in practice and feel it myself, because I was the subject matter. So, and I used SMART goals to kind of, I guess, break it down and structure that whole plan to modify the behavior. But yeah, it's really interesting to see all these techniques that you see online and you read online and you hear all these people talk about and actually see it in action. So yeah, I thought it was, for me, it's I
It's
guess
like a given
yeah,
that
it's
it works.
but I wouldn't say it's intuitive. I think it is still a skill
Yeah.
that you need to break down. I think that it's interesting lah.
Yeah. Speaking of behavioral modification, I think I had a similar assignment, and now I'm recalling it because I basically didn't do it until the last minute.
Oh.
And so I made it up. I made up my results
Wow.
and I submitted. Sorry, lecturers. I mean, I didn't know I had ADHD back then. But I was like, ugh, I forgot about it because it's that kind of assignment. Like I can't actually do it last minute.
Yeah.
Like those are the kind of things that you're supposed to plan out like that
Yeah.
to have a successful outcome.
Yeah.
But because most of my assignments and how I work is I do things last minute because of the deadline coming up.
Yeah.
That never worked out because obviously I didn't get the chance to do an experiment on myself.
Understand?
Yeah, so just sharing that because that sort of shows where the goals or the goal settings differ, and I didn't realize it was different. I thought, okay, resolutions, everyone's talking about resolutions in New Year's, let me set some. I want to lose weight. I want to be more active. I want to... Actually, I feel like that's all. I feel like
It's fine. No problem with that.
that's what I mean of I don't really set goals before this. Where
Understand.
the only thing I thought about was whatever everyone else was saying.
Yeah.
If everyone else was lose weight, I'm like, okay, me too.
Understand?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? As you're talking about this, I feel like, again, this is another example how we complement each other, because I'm on the complete opposite of the spectrum. I'm the kind of person who freaking write 10 things in a list with a timeline. I overplan to the detail, okay? And
You
it's
should see her calendar and her journal.
it's exhausting to be in that kind of state sometimes, because it gets to a point where for me I plan until I'm so exhausted from the planning I don't actually do it.
Ooh.
Yes, I'm like, you know what, I've gone through it in my brain from start to end. Now I actually have to do it in reality again.
Ooh.
That's where the
Oh my
exhaustion comes in.
Yes.
So it's I can really actually think up until as far as you need me to think.
Damn, 20 years.
Maybe, yeah. If I really sit down and think about it. But it's just I don't do that as often anymore, because I'm trying to be,
Present.
being more present, trying to get away from over planning the future so much. But also, again, with me being quite an extremist, from over planning to not planning at all. So I'm trying to come to a middle again.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the past decade, I also have been a lot of focus on short-term goals. Okay, get this thing done, get that done. Once that's done, get that done. It burns you out also
Yeah, of
sometimes, because once you've achieved that, you're like, okay, so what's next?
What's next?
What's
Yeah.
next? What's next? What's next? And I'm in that state right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next.
Okay.
If as concrete as possible, and maybe that's okay. Sometimes the thing about New Year or life is that sometimes the year is just to exist.
Yeah, actually. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Not just because of the ADHD or because I'm terrible at goal setting, but I believe that as a part of, like, when you live life, I mean, there's things we can change if we want to. But at the end of the day, it is completely fine if you set goals and you don't reach them.
Yeah.
Like,
Legit.
yeah, if you hold yourself to such impossible standards sometimes to like 100% achieve your goals within a certain time and you don't, that sort of just opens you up for more self-criticism and disappointment that just doesn't help. You know, it
No.
just feels extra bad. One, you didn't achieve your goal, which is fine. But two, you're beating yourself up about the fact that you didn't achieve your goal
True.
and you couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's just, and as you said that, it makes me think about goal setting in multiple levels,
Yeah.
where perhaps when we were younger, or like when we're not as self-aware, or when we're not really so in tune with our values, the goal seems really artificial. Not to be rude, but maybe not the word to say artificial, but it feels a little bit one-dimensional.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh, I just want to lose weight, for example.
Yes.
Or but what's the point of that?
Yeah.
So I find that the more you are in tune with yourself, the more you are connected with yourself, you hear your emotions a bit more, and you're being more aware of yourself. The goals also shows that it's a bit more, it's not just achieving one specific goal, but it's more of like intentional lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I like that. Yeah.
It's like, for example, instead of just losing weight, it's more of like, oh, I want to be more intentional with what I eat, or with what I put in my body, right? It's not just with diet, it can also be with like supplements, or
Yes.
nutrition,
Yeah.
or quality of water, or
Yeah.
even like, I don't know, like buying quality tea and coffee. You wouldn't buy so cheap things. Like, I want to invest.
I have an example that you have done, which is making your own bread.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Being more, I guess being more, doing things more homemade or hands-on.
Being more aware of like what is in your food.
Yeah.
That's a good goal to have as well.
To be more, I guess, aware. Yeah. So I was just thinking about how when you're not aware, it's a slippery slope to oblivion. Aware. Just a simple
True
thing.
though.
I used to track everything, like water intake. Like, it's exhausting, guys. Water intake, expenditures. I mean, I still track certain things, but the amount of tracking is reduced now. But I realized again, like, from not tracking at all, I was not aware of how much I was consuming sweet drinks. So
Okay.
it's like I used to be like very disciplined on like only once a week, or maybe not at all, for the whole month, and it was possible, right? But that's also something I noticed with goals and like habit changes. It's about pacing yourself, I think, and it's about also how you it's a marathon rather than a speed run. Sprint, yes. Because if not, you're just gonna like,
That's true. Yeah. I think that's with that also works with my way of setting stuff up, because you're sort of doing lifestyle changes rather than trying to achieve one goal that is time based. Because for me, if I achieve a goal once, I'm not going to repeat it again. I'll be like, I did it, it's done, I don't have to do it anymore, and then I forget about it, and then it's like a yo-yo thing, right? It goes through that cycle. For example, let's say if the goal was like, I want to lose 5 kg, and then I do it, I lose 5 kg. Once I've lost it, I'm like, goal achieved, that's it. And then I regain the 5 kg in the next year. That's not effective, right? So it's more of like you said, lifestyle changes. Maybe it's not losing weight. I mean, I know we keep using this example, but it's probably the easiest example to use, because a lot of people have losing weight on their New Year's resolutions. Of course, your choice to do it, but at the same time, why are you doing it? What is losing weight about? Is it an appearance thing? Is it a body image thing? Is it a self-esteem thing? Is it societal expectations?
Yes.
Or is it your health? Is it
Yeah.
that you want to do it because you know it's going to be better for you, for your, like, being like a family in the future, being able to, like, I don't know, run after your kids or something.
Facts.
So, like, being intentional with that and making changes that last a long time is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah. It's about, and I think I always talk about or think about how to keep things sustainable,
Yeah.
and again, it's about strategy. Where are you going to change every single thing at the same time, or jumping from like not doing that thing at all and doing it all the time
Yeah.
immediately?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and it's also like setting yourself up for failure. Not necessarily.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, so you're right about that, and just in tuning to like what really motivates you, which again aligns with your values. Yeah, so that's awesome. Speaking of which, I wanted to know, for yourself, what worked? Like, what works for you?
I can give a really good example for this past year. Again, it wasn't an intentional goal.
Okay.
Probably in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I feel like I've put on weight because I've been lax with physical activity and like healthy lifestyle. Not that putting on weight is a bad thing, but personally for me, I noticed I was feeling lethargic. I wasn't feeling particularly active and energetic anymore. So I was like, something's gonna change, right? But I didn't think of it as a particular, like, okay, Amanda, lose weight. Like, you got to do these things to lose weight. I didn't think about it like that. I started doing things that I enjoyed, and if I liked it, I kept it.
Nice.
So, for example, at one point, actually, this was like last year. No, not last year. Last year is 2023, 2 years ago. What I started doing and I really enjoyed was roller skating,
Nice.
and that helped me feel so active. But of course, given how my brain works, is sometimes I lose interest in something and then I have to find something else. So it's completely fine. I'm super accepting of that. I lost interest there. So what happened was I didn't have that physical activity for a while again. But I actually started doing very simple cardio at home
Nice.
with my parents.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just like remind each other, hey, today let's just like turn on this YouTube video and exercise together.
Cute.
And I didn't realize I've been doing it like at least maybe 3 times a week for the whole year,
Awesome.
and I lost weight without even thinking about it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think I lost about, how much was I? I lost 8 kgs this year by just
Congrats.
doing this little thing. So I feel like sometimes these things, these systems, are the ones that make it work for me. Like, this is the strategy that it's a part of my daily thing,
Right.
not a thing of like I need to go and hit this goal and lift this much weight and like spend this much hours in the gym. It's not about that, but it's more like there's an activity, it's easy to do the activity, and it fits into my day,
Right.
and that's why it works for me.
Nice. The assimilation.
Yeah,
That it doesn't feel such a stark
exactly.
difference. And I think like you doing it with your parents, they're kind of like your accountability.
Yeah, and if like one of them doesn't feel like doing it, I'll be like, hey, let's do it. So like
Nice.
we do it for each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are a team. No, it really does matter, because as humans, yes, you can do things alone. It's very possible.
Yes, of course.
But if you can, having people around you to keep you accountable, and you keep each other accountable, I think it just eases the whole process, especially on days that you are not as motivated or not as driven to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to maintain this, right? I think there are some changes recently in our lives that it's a bit difficult to do it, but that probably means we just need to find something else that works.
Nice.
Another system, another routine that works for us, versus trying to force ourselves into the same schedule or routine as before. Because
Understand.
obviously if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
We gotta be flexible with it.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's me. I have to. My issue is about being rigid and perfectionist. So I think what worked for me was to challenge that. I had to first things first understand how to say macam use parts of my personality or my characteristics as to play as strengths, but also to challenge any sort of like unhelpful beliefs or like patterns that I have.
Yeah.
So a lot of times mine is perfectionism. It's like it has to be a certain way, perfect in my brain, in how it has to be.
Yes.
So what helped for me to challenge that was to mainly to, I guess, to just do it. To just do it. That's the strategy I've been trying to implement. To
Right.
just try it.
Like to just think less about it. Don't
Yeah.
analyze it as much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. And to remind myself why I'm doing it. Like a big part of it that I've been doing more, I wanted to do more, is journaling.
Yeah.
So I've been putting off journaling for a long time because I wanted it a certain way. I envision it a certain way. Like the detail of the envision is like me sitting on such an awesome chair with an awesome table with a candle, all my equipment and things laid out,
Yeah.
my awesome new notebook, and even then how I write it has to be awesome, but it's so not realistic. Because first things first, I can't write like that. I can't write like that. Wow, toxic trait, thinking I could write exactly like that TikTok. Hell no. It's facts.
Like what
Yeah, the
the
calligraphy,
calligraphy thing.
all of that.
Yeah.
So, but what really helped was seeing other TikToks of imperfect entries. They were showing like, oh, my handwriting is not as pretty. They were trying to de-influence people.
I love
I
that.
needed that. I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? That's so freaking helpful. It's to remind you that. Then it reminded me like, okay, why am I doing this? It's for my self-care.
Yeah.
It's for my creativity. It's for me to release the stress.
Yeah.
And it is helpful because I find myself feeling so much better when I do something creative, to just something with my hands. I like to do art and craft. So yeah, a lot of the times it's just to challenge that perfectionist. And you know, when I listed down all my resolutions and I forget about it half the year, somehow it's similar like you know, when you have that intention in your brain in the beginning, sometimes it might work out that you naturally achieve it.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that as well when I look back. Oh wow, actually I achieved all these things.
Yeah.
I was able to take certain things off. And again, I think what's important is perspective. Do you see, let's say if you take 6 out of 10 things out of your list, do you celebrate them and say, wow, this is impressive, or damn, you suck, you didn't achieve 10 out of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
That's
matters.
so harmful, I feel.
Yeah.
Like to not be able to celebrate what you did achieve, but to just focus on the parts that you didn't achieve.
Yes.
It doesn't help at all.
No, it doesn't. In
Yeah.
fact, it demotivates you
Exactly.
and it kind of steers you away. A lot of times people think that, oh, I just got to push myself harder. But it becomes even more exhausting because I see it as like another physical load on your body where you're trying to push yourself when you're already down,
Yeah.
you know, with those words, you know.
I mean, it hasn't worked. So what makes you think it's going to work the more you do it? Obviously, you need a different strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of kindness, a bit of
Yeah.
understanding,
A
a bit of
little-
flexibility.
a little bit more compassion,
Yeah.
support, motivation. So yeah, that's I think the biggest I hope to see change within how our society views achievement, goals,
Yeah.
all these things, which is that being so harsh on ourselves it's actually not effective, and there are less harmful ways for you to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, that you don't have to beat yourself up, you don't have to berate yourself, and you don't have to punish yourself when you don't achieve these things. Instead, you can objectively look at it, understand what's going on, and reflect, and then strategize to use your resources, your strengths, to see how you
Yeah.
can actually achieve these things
Exactly.
better in the next round.
Yeah. And maybe that kind of like, what's the word? Pushing yourself, it works for some people, right? That's great for you. But you're right. We have to look at our unique differences and see what works for each of us. For example, like I would probably benefit from having a bit more organization. Like when you said like how different we are and how we complement, I would benefit from having a bit more organization to maybe for someone to just like sit down with me and like talk about, okay, what do you want to achieve?
We could do it together.
We could.
No
We're
problem.
gonna do it after this.
Okay, yes.
Right, like to sit down and like do that because it's hard for me to do it myself, right?
Yeah.
But on your hand, like on your hand, on your side,
Yeah.
your experience with you, Diana, like everything feels wrong.
okay.
With you,
Yeah.
it's about that like flexibility, challenging yourself. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to think too much about it. Maybe you need someone to pull you to the present.
Yes.
Which is
someone
what I
like
do a lot.
Amanda. Yes.
I do a lot. I'm like, hey, think about it today,
Yeah.
right now.
Yes. I
What's
need that.
now? Yeah.
Betul.
So yeah, it's a good thing to recognize in yourself. Like, what is your way? What works for you? That's what we need to use when we set goals or resolutions or systems or routines.
And I just want to highlight, right, like a little disclaimer. I feel like this kind of, I guess, knowledge data that we get, it's not from just 1 year. I
Yeah.
feel it's through years
Yes.
of trial and error,
Of our life.
of observing, of
Yes.
reflecting,
Yes.
to get this kind of, I guess, refined information about ourselves on what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
That's why I always believe and emphasize so much on the importance of not just self-reflection, but knowing yourself more.
Yes. Spending time with yourself to figure out who are you. Like you said just now, right? Who are you?
And if you don't know, it's okay. Join me. It's a year to get to know each other.
Figure it out.
Yourselves. 2025 year. Hello, I'm Diana. I'm Diana too. Clap, clap, clap. This is Minda's new clap. Clap, clap, clap.
Diana.
I'm Diana. Nice to meet you.
To meet you.
How have you
Meet
been?
yourself. Spend
Yeah.
time with yourself. Get to know yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think actually, interestingly, a lot of people avoid that. A lot of people don't want to dive deep into who they are. I think there's a bit of fear there that maybe they won't like what they find.
Spicy. Spicy tea. It is exciting. I know, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
God.
I wonder why.
But as usual, we provide that service if you want to try to explore that with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would also say a lot of this on top of the years of reflection and so forth, not just from
Alone,
journaling. It also came from therapy.
Therapy. Oh
Therapy.
my God.
Yeah, life changing.
Life changing.
We'll still advocate for therapy
Yeah. Always.
forever.
We are still going for ours. And we
Yes.
will go forever.
Yes.
So we always advocate for it. I think it's such a good way for getting support and helping you figure out things you never knew about yourself. Like those strategies, like what works, to figure out like, oh, hey, I've always struggled with ADHD and organization. I never knew that. So maybe I figured it out in therapy, like
Yeah.
that's a place for you to get to know it because you have this person to bounce it back with you to be like, hey, did you notice this thing about yourself and why goals never work out for you? I'm like, aha. Aha.
Oh, that was brought up in your session.
Oh yeah, I talk about it all the time.
Oh, nice.
I think like like I said, I don't do goals a lot, right? But if I do, it's sort of like brought up, and then like my therapist would sort of like ask me, hey, remember like a few sessions ago when you said you wanted to do this thing, so what happened? I'm like, oh yeah, after that session I never thought about it.
I love the honesty.
Yeah.
Great.
Which is fine, also okay.
Yeah.
But then I would realize like, oh, I need to spend time to figure out how things can like actually get initiated and maintained. But also it's okay if it doesn't, unless it's of course like a very important thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Getting the support that you need.
yes, and you explore that in therapy. You know,
Yeah.
it helps you figure out maybe that's why your resolutions haven't worked for a while, forever, your whole life, probably because of certain things that perfectionism,
Perfectionism, rigid thinking,
inflexibility, rigid thinking, lack of
high
organization,
expectation, lack of organization,
time blindness,
time blindness,
which affects like future thinking as well.
yes,
Those kind of
many,
things. So
yeah,
many things.
so many things can actually
Yeah.
stop you. It could be also lack of support, lack of
Like you-
accountability system.
Exactly. Like you mentioned earlier, right? If people talk about, like we're going the loop again, people talk about their resolutions and other people make fun of them for it.
Yeah,
Like,
very
screw them.
demotivating.
You know,
Screw them.
screw them because
We vouch for you.
We vouch for you. You want the change. You want to talk about it. You want to set it up. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yep.
You should be able to do that
Yeah.
anytime with whoever.
Yeah.
You know, and if there are people in your life who are telling you you'll never do that, you'll never achieve it, like those are naysayers and they're gonna bring your energy and your vibe down.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to have different people around you, supportive people, or communicate to them.
Yes.
Active, healthy communication is always good. Do you have any like tips
Okay.
to share with our audience about setting up these goals or resolutions or systems after what we discussed today? Any more tips, I mean?
Yes, I have two more tips.
Mm.
I think I want to emphasize again a little bit on not just self-compassion, on top of self-compassion, which is to celebrate. I think you mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think that's so important that you celebrate and that you reflect back. You look back. I think it's important. Even, I think it's also important for neurodivergent,
Yeah.
neurodivergent folks to like, when they have that time blindness, it's like to look back, to write it down, even
Yeah. I
to
agree.
see and be like, oh, wow, that's cool,
Yeah.
or maybe not cool,
I-
or either way.
I mean, I think that's a great tip because otherwise we probably wouldn't even recognize that we did something
Yes.
and forget about it.
yes.
And then later we're like, wait a minute, I achieved that thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really believe in the effects, or like the positive effects, benefits of like realizing, or like physically putting your thoughts into the outside world. You know, either through typing, through writing,
Yeah.
something that's out of your brain that you can read outside, because our memory can't be trusted. That's facts. And if you're not, again, you're not looking into the future, you would need, I'm assuming you're also not looking to the past either. So having that, your present self is gonna help your future self,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
doing things like actually making a fun activity with a friend, like, hey, it's New Year's.
Let's make a vision board.
Yo, oh my god, I used to
see
do
that
vision
on
board.
TikTok. It looks so cool. You
Me
should do
too.
that with your friends. Even if people
Yes.
like gather some of your friends around, get everyone to do this together. You have
Yeah.
people who can keep you accountable and be supportive of each other's goals throughout the year. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, maybe Minda could also organize one in the next year, and you guys could join us.
Yeah. Let us know if you're interested.
Yeah.
I mean, we would be happy to do that. I
Yes,
feel.
all of us doing arts and crafts, making our vision board, figuring out what 2026 or the next year would look like.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
I love this. So I think like with everything about this, hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to start with your resolutions. And again, it doesn't mean that starting with your resolutions means you're listing it down and starting to do it, but maybe figuring out who you are, what you need, what works for you, to strategize, to organize, to plan out these things. Maybe that's where you start with resolutions, right?
Yep.
And in terms of what works, it could be addressing things that are your barriers, addressing the support system you have, the accountability to complete these things, but also self-compassion at the end of the day, that it's completely fine to not achieve or at least celebrate your wins, even no matter how small they are. They're still wins. Yeah.
Me doing this to emphasize on the last point. Celebrate your wins.
Celebrate it.
It's so important because life is already so hard.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
You know, try
In
your
this
best.
economy, we're losing every day, honestly. Just celebrate your wins, please.
Please, something to celebrate about. It can be anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this conversation also helped me to realize a few more things about myself, that I do need help to sit down and talk about things and plan it out, either with my therapist or with you. So I'm excited to do that after.
Yeah. We can plan it out seriously.
We'll have our conversation after this.
Yeah.
But with that, this has been another episode of
What's on Your
Minda. Thank you for watching, and leave us a like or a comment if you're on YouTube, or like and comment on Spotify as well. And you can reach us through DMs at Minda Psychology on Instagram, or email us at hello@mindapsychology.com.
Yes.
But yeah, we hope to see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.